Berlin is the ultimate setting for a Cold War spy story because of its very unique makeup. No other city in the world was divided in the way that Berlin was.
The rules of that town were so different from anywhere else in the espionage game. Whether it's the CIA, whether it's MI6 in Britain, or whether it's the French, all crowded into one tiny little location.
Everybody is at risk when the wall comes down. The agents on the ground, they're operating on their own because there is a real need to protect themselves. You never know who is working for who in this film.
Let me help you with your bags. Welcome to Berlin.
Fuck's sake.
Shout out their protests through tear
Common
gas.
Blonde is sort of like a mashup of historical fiction and real history.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Berlin was its own little bubble, its own little enclave, full of spies, full of government bureaucrats.
It's such a kind of Wild West kind of town. There's drugs everywhere and contraband. It's a place where people consume.
Because everything was from the West was so secret. They couldn't listen to Western music and they couldn't wear Western clothes. Whatever you can't do or whatever you can't have is immediately going to be way more appealing.
In a place like that, people like Percival become like a little king rat.
Es ist offen!
Operatives in Berlin get the job done in what is a very different environment. Everybody sort of knows each other. It's almost like you go drinking with your worst enemy, and you probably sleep with the same people.
It takes place at a time of warmth and color. It indicates the sort of vibrant artistic direction that the city was going about.
As a baby of the 80s, I wanted to make a film that was like the wish fulfillment of the 80s, and there's no city that's more appropriate to do that in Berlin. No one could express Berlin better than somebody who lives there and knows it and understands it. And David Schoenemann is the perfect partner of helping design this world and keeping it authentic.
One of the first discussions we had on this was where to shoot the movie. We talked about Budapest as an excellent replacement for Berlin at that time.
The truth is that parts of Budapest today look more like Berlin in 1989 than Berlin does today.
You find excellent texture, and with that, it's a lot more cinematic. The wall is pretty much the symbol of the division between the Western and the Eastern world. So all our wall sets were quite important.
It's pretty amazing how much you can do practically. We built a no man's land, and we contracted a couple local graffiti artists. It'll be all practical, old school filmmaking, which is cool.
It's extremely important with all the sets and the interiors to bring the roughness and the authenticity of Berlin to life.
It's really cold in Berlin, and it's a nice contrast to see those colors. It indicates change of the revolution.
It was about setting a palette and very much wanting to do a very vibrant, colorful world of '89 Berlin.
Atmosphere is a big part of any Cold War spy thriller, I think, and especially this movie. So much of it relies on getting across the feeling of Berlin in the late 80s.
1989 was a bananas time, and while reading a script, you don't think about that. It's got a sauce to it that is just really, really, really unique and special.
It really is not your grandfather's spy thriller.
I'll tell you one thing, and one thing only. I love Berlin!
When we started looking for directors, a little bit of the magic was gone every time I spoke to a director. And there was something about David when he showed me a Berlin that I had never seen before.
So fun!
I wanted to spin the spy genre on its head, try something fresh.
David's vision really, really drew me to the story. It was a really different view of that whole genre.
We've seen a lot of the Cold War done in a dark, brooding type of fashion, but Dave had a fresh, interesting perspective to it that I don't think anybody has seen it before.
It was very evident that he was interested in the stuff that we haven't explored in cinema when it comes to that dynamic of East and West, and also the quintessential spy thriller, like what those look like and what they feel like. There was an energy about him that felt fresh. He's very, very savvy on the history, and he knew what he was talking about. At the same time, he was very much like, but that's not the movie I want to make. And that's when I knew we had the right guy. David just came in with such a visual and such an idea of what he wanted the heart of this film to be. It was brave, it was refreshing, it was provocative. I knew he was the person that I wanted to make this movie with, no matter what.
I was pretty thrilled about working with David Leitch, our lovely director.
One of the nicest things about working with David is he's done so many films and is so experienced.
He's great. I mean, he really knows exactly what he wants.
David brings this awesomeness with action that you don't expect in this genre.
There's no action inherent in the graphic novel, and that was really brought to the project by David.
The minute Dave was attached to this movie, I knew, okay, there's going to be probably a lot more action in the movie than there is in the book, and indeed there is.
I'm not personally interested in just action for action's sake.
We shoot it in a particular way to tell a story.
It's an impressive set of skills.
Talents can be overrated.
I saw that there was a real opportunity to arc her character along with the action thematically, with her emotional dilemma that she's going through. The action drives you through her existential crisis until you think all is lost.
We had to come up with something that we've never seen before.
David has his finger on the pulse of action and what the fans want.
His credentials are exemplary when it comes to action.
He is a master technician. It's showing you the machine of what is happening from second to second, from beat to beat, from punch to kick, and it's utterly compelling.
What I always do is try to give your protagonist problems to solve. That's what I do as a fight choreographer, and that's what I did as a director.
8711 has become more than just a stunt team or an action design team. They've now become a brand of filmmaking. You get a certain texture of fighting choreography.
You're only as good as the people that you work with, and I worked with the best.
The choreography team, such a great group of artists.
I had one of the best teams that you could assemble. Dave is smart. He surrounds himself with talented, innovative people and then lets them do what they do. We've coined the slogan, bold choices, and we try to make bold choices with the action, so it's a very unique and engrossing experience when you watch this film, and it will seamlessly work together to create a fun, entertaining ride.
I think that is what sets this movie apart. It was really intense. It was so much fun.
I'm most proud of the fact that the action arc works incredibly well, and as we devised it, it was the most fun I've had making a movie in my entire career.
British Operational Officer Lorraine Broughton. We were just going over your file. You're an expert in escape and evasion, proficient in intelligence collection, and hand-to-hand combat. It's an impressive set of skills.
There was something about this woman, Lorraine, that really sparked something for me.
Get a character that was not only indomitable in their spirit and their skill set, but then find someone who was relatable and human.
It's always been something that's very important as an actor, to really feel the consequences of certain actions.
Lorraine is sort of put into these situations. She can't make a plan. She's gonna have to react. She's gonna have to depend on her wiles, her ingenuity, and her resilience to survive.
She's a ninja, triple agent. She's that much of a ninja.
I wanted to make this film because of the challenge of telling this story through action.
It's not a po-faced espionage movie with a lot of talking. The action is just out of this world, and you could tell from who our director is and what he's done before. You knew there was going to be a brutality, but an ability to execute that brutality and actually know how to film that brutality in a way that you don't see all the time.
My experience with David is that he has his finger on the pulse of of action and what it wants to be, what the fans want.
And his background being an action unit director, he has an affinity to create really interesting, dynamic, new action that we haven't seen before.
I don't think we've seen enough female characters kicking ass the way she does.
There wasn't a lot of female action that I could look at. So Dave was very, very good in kind of guiding me.
There is a process that we do at 8711 where we take an actor, we sort of put them through an evaluation and see what they're good at and what their strengths are, and sort of put that against what we're trying to design for the character. With that, we design the choreography.
And at first, our thought process, not knowing her skill level, we were going to break things down to be very traditional.
It was amazing to watch what she did to prepare for the role at fight training, endurance training. You could see the results. She was doing very complicated fight moves.
Her ability to learn choreography, commit that to her physical memory, and then roll with the punches and roll with the changes as and when needed, and a lot of people can't do that.
So I changed the directives to the choreography team to go big and build it out. And we'll do longer takes and we'll do more complex moves because she can do 20 moves without cutting.
I had incredible teachers who were incredibly patient with me and saw my strengths, saw my weaknesses, and decided to work towards my strengths. It was very clear the way I was going to fight, how a woman would really be able to fight and not break every bone in her fist.
If they were, use one hand, she would use two. Or if they try to throw a punch, she would throw three. Or use the environment around her to gain an advantage. Along with her never give up kind of tenacity.
I can do that better. Let's go. Up. Let's go. Still rolling.
It was tough, I'm not gonna lie, but I think I wanted it to be tough. That idea of discipline and working hard to have your body physically do things that you can't do is something that I'm fascinated by. I dedicated myself to it 100%.
This is not shot in front of green screen. The camera's in her face.
You're watching the actor do these great moves that they've trained very hard to achieve, and you're not being fooled in any way. You're with them, and they're actually doing it. On every film, there's one sequence that it's just that one that you have to do over and over again because it's not quite right. You didn't quite get the energy. And for us, that was Gascoigne's apartment.
And then we're into
the fight that I have in the apartment. That fight was a fight that I had with local stuntmen. They took so many hits.
Are you sure? Because I'm gonna really do it, right?
Yeah. Please.
I had to buy a lot of alcohol to be forgiven for all of the face connection that I had with them.
Nailed it.
The long take shot in the stairwell was something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Then we started to see Charlize train, and we were like, holy shit, we can make this happen. So we picked a location, the stunt team choreographed it, we rehearsed with camera department, and we ended up having Sam Hargrave on camera for that sequence because he knew the choreography.
That's right. Saddling up for war.
And she goes into a building and fights a group of guys all the way down the staircase, leads into a room where the fight continues, people are getting killed.
That was a fight that I fought with all of these guys that I've spent 3 months with. It was very intimate, it was very close, and there were no injuries. There were absolutely nothing. Or so they told me.
Are you okay? That's great. It's fucking money.
It was Jonathan Sella who said, why do we want to stop in the stairs? Let's go into the street. How do we get into the car? If we're gonna do it, let's do it.
You're gonna see something in this movie too you've never seen anywhere else. It's as though it's like your eyeballs go into this car and they fly back and forth. You're looking at everything as though you're actually the hero of the movie.
And hopefully it's as exciting for the viewer as it was for us to make it. I mean, it was really intense.
By the end, it looks like a massacre has occurred, but she's still standing.
By the end of it, you were just absolutely exhausted. There's a real connection that you have with a character when you see them fighting for something, and they're fighting with all of their heart.
It's hard to find an actor that could thread the needle of those two things, like making someone so tough and so cold and so calculated, but yet human is a balancing act that only few actors can do.
She's just as intense and brings a level of physical energy to it, which is formidable.
I really wanted to look back on this and say, wow, we really tried everything, and boy, did we try everything.
Good job.
Hi, I'm David Leitch, director of Atomic Blonde, and this is Anatomy of a Fight Scene. The long take was something that I've been wanting to do for a long time.
I need to deal with this now, or we'll never get across.
I don't want to die.
You're not going to die.
You know, I told Charlize, I'm gonna hang this whole sequence on your shoulders, and I'm not gonna leave the character, and we're gonna stay with it, and it's gonna be disturbing, and it's gonna be emotional, because we don't cut away. I guess the biggest thing right now is that our stunt coordinator and fight choreographer is operating camera. We shoot stunt vises for our fight scenes, and the stunt guys will do it and cut it and edit it, and so they just know where to put the camera for the choreography. And sometimes it's hard to translate that to a regular operator. Two great stunt performers, Daniel Hargrave and it's Greg Remeter, and they are playing Russians. Pretty amazing. I love the sideburns on Greg. It was really fun to see her go off in this first bit of action, and I think that that's when Charlize got pumped up, like, we're gonna actually make this work. She was like, holy crap, I love it. And I think that's when the vision really clicked for her. This is actually my favorite part of the movie right here. Makes me laugh every time. And we're using a lot of the stunt tricks, like we'd foam the stairs to make it look like marble, and the art department had scenic them perfectly. The wall was foam, you know, but looked like wood. This is all Charlize, by the way. She had worked 4 days a week for 8 weeks, probably, just rehearsing choreography. This is sort of built from a bunch of modular pieces of choreography that we designed for Lorraine's character. This was about the time where one of our producers from the studio was kind of like, do you want to try and reduce this or cut it? It's a little violent. And I'm like, no, go big or go home. I love this backlit blood coming out of Greg's mouth. It's amazing. This is a classic return to sender move where she's like, I'll take that knife and put it in your throat. And throw you down the stairs. So I think the big question is, like, why doesn't Broughton put the gun together? The premise was there's no time, it's missing a piece. We just didn't want to do any more gun fu at this point, so we gave her a blunt object. This is also sort of fun chuckle moment for me. Spyglass is like, there's two more. Great. The audience is excited, there's two more. Oh, right in the throat. I remember Charlize not believing that she could do this move. She trained it for a couple weeks, and then they sent me the tape of it. I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. We have to find a place to put it in. You would think it's over, but it's not. This is just classic. Spyglass has to, like, man up at some point. So you'll see he has his heroic moment coming up. I like Eddie running across, dodging the bullets. I love, like I said, this motion of just like hanging with the drama for a moment and giving people a chance to catch their breath, but not cutting away, making it feel like it's almost like documentary. We had some help from our visual effects buddies on the digital blood. The blonde henchman is Daniel Bernhardt. It's funny, I've known him for 20 years. He was the star of Bloodsport 2. He took over the Von Damme franchise. My first movie I worked on was Daniel Bernhardt's Perfect Target, and I love to bring that up and embarrass him. But he's a great actor and a great action actor as well. Well, a great prop department. You're thinking of like a breakaway lamp. There's just so many details in making a movie to make this happen, like making sure the shelves are soft and it's breakaway. So this fight scene, like you needed to cast someone who could help Charlize and like was gonna be safe, but also had the acting chops to sort of stay in there and like perform, you know, the drama. And a lot of times stunt men can do the one, but they can't do the other. Daniel's like the hybrid. Hot plate to the face. Ooh, it's gonna hurt. And we actually did this sort of, we call it Texas switch, where she gets the real corkscrew from the ground as the camera pans away. So she has a half corkscrew as she's hitting him in the eye, and then I'm like, please don't forget to get the rubber one, but she's a pro. I love the fact that they're too exhausted to fight, and I just refuse to stop the one shot. I'm like, no, keep it. That's what would really happen. If you would have made it this far, you probably wouldn't have made it this far anyway, but if you would, you'd be tired. You can see like clever ways to light the set. So we're backlighting that set with newspapers in the windows, but you still have the sound design of like the street of Berlin, like we're right outside. There was a version that the stunt guys wanted where she finishes him off, but we made the choice to make Lorraine a little bit more empathetic, and she stops at that point, but then she does get her chance, obviously, later in the car, where she shoots him through the windshield. So I guess we got to have our cake and eat it too. The beginning of the movie, where we see Lorraine in the tub, sets up the payoff for this entire scene and allows us to stay in it, you know, because you're kind of finally unraveling the mystery of like what the fuck happened in Berlin.
fucking Gascoigne.
How did you find me? Maybe you're not as good at this spy shit as you think.
It was Satchel, wasn't it? Satchel gave me up. I always thought if I got tagged, it would be by the best. But you're not the best, are you, Becton? You're the biggest fucking cunt in the KGB.
Sticks and stones, Jimmy.